Welcome to the Inside Influence, the show where we explore the mechanics of power, politics, and influence that you usually don't see. But that affects everyone. I'm your host, Paul Prine, and I'm running for Mobile County Sheriff. And today we're going to talk about power and influence on government boards that are appointed positions, specifically through the lens of the appointment process. You may have heard some of these boards and you may have not, but they wield real influence, manage substantial budgets, and can shape local operations in ways that ripple through our communities. Now, let me be clear, this isn't about wrongdoing or appointing unqualified people. Many of these appointees are capable, dedicated, and skilled in certain aspects of their own occupations or jobs that they do outside of the board. The point is something different. Today's point is about understanding how some politicians abdicate their real responsibility in making appointments to these boards, giving them the authority to make decisions on behalf of the board and you, the people, and how others or politicians use these appointments strategically to control influence, build power bases, and use them as a force multiplier to support their election campaigns. Here's how it should work. The Mobile County Commission, the three commissioners that we have, Merceria Ludgood, Connie Hudson, and Randall Dewitt, are responsible to solicit qualified board members to serve 4-year terms on the 911 board. Ideally, these members bring experience with budgets, operations, and certainly understanding processes. They don't have to be experts to sit on these boards, but they do need to be able to adapt quickly, understand processes and procedures, and certainly act in the best interest of the public, you, the citizen. But here's what seems to happen in reality. Currently, 4 of the 7 Mobile County 911 board members are directly connected, related to, in some way, form, or fashion, to the current sheriff, Paul Birch. Let me go a little bit further into this. Patrick Mitchell. He is the current warden of the Mobile County Metro Jail. He serves on this board. He is in charge of the jail and works directly for the sheriff. Chief Deputy Frank Cassidy of the Mobile County Sheriff's Office. He works directly underneath and for the sheriff, Paul Birch. He's responsible, in essence, for the budget. You have Dr. Timothy Hughes, who serves on behalf of the sheriff in operational matters if someone or a member of the public is hurt or, God forbid, a deputy is hurt or killed in the line of duty. Chief of Police Chris McLean from the Citronelle Police Department in Citronelle, Alabama, a former employee of the Mobile County Sheriff's Office. And then, of course, there's other board members like Mr. Donnie Brown. He's a close friend of the sheriff, and he also serves on another prominent government board. Mr. Eric Lindsay is either a former or current county employee in some capacity. I'm not really sure. And then, of course, there's another individual that I don't recognize readily. But listen, these individuals are directly responsible for managing substantial county funds for 911 operations. While I am not suggesting any nefarious activity or unethical issues or in any capacity, it's clear that this concentration of appointments builds influence, and it explains why some incumbents are so difficult to unseat. 4 of the 7 allows for a majority vote on any item up for discussion spending taxpayer money. This favors the politician. Perhaps having the director of operations fired for doing his or her job if that director challenged specifically the sheriff, who obviously had a hand or influence on appointing his employees or people directly related to his office. He could essentially wield the authority or power to suggest anything that he wants and then make it happen. More importantly, specifically on these challenges that come from a director or come from an employee of 911, if those challenges are lawful or ethical, well, we've just given authority to the wrong people if they rebuttal against it. But think about the appointments like these that create informal networks of loyalty and power. They allow influence to extend beyond formal authority by controlling who sits on these boards. Elected officials can influence how resources are distributed, which agencies receive funding, and even shape operations in ways that reinforce their political base. I suppose, in short, these boards become force multiplier tools that help consolidate power and secure electoral advantages for the people that have the most influence on getting these people in office. And right now, there's absolutely no way to refute that the sheriff has had a lot of influence on the 911 board. Perhaps this is why Alabama State Representative Chip Brown attempted to sponsor a bill in the State House this year, from having elected public service commission positions to that of making those positions appointed. Sounds to me, and I have no real reason to know, but it sounds to me when we go from an elected position answering to the people to an appointed position in which it becomes very political and controlling, it seems like those actions could have been nefarious. Again, my opinion. Why might you ask? Well, that's a great question. Influence controls power. Perhaps someone like Frank Cassidy, who's been surrounded by a cloud of suspicion by those who at the sheriff's office have abused the overtime monies and the system at the sheriff's office and who has had trouble balancing the budget for the sheriff's department the last 3 fiscal years, going on now 4 fiscal years, maybe he's not the best person to serve on that board. That's not a personal attack. That's just coming from a position of qualifications and experience. If he's learned to be a good steward of the sheriff's office money, then perhaps maybe he would do well on this board. Again, that is my opinion. It's not to be a slight, but when you have so much cloud of suspicion over certain individuals and certain positions that are responsible for your money, those questions are valid. Most of you have no idea that these boards exist. We now see the overreach of authority, in my opinion, from the Mobile Area Water Board Association, or MALS, who shut down Big Creek Lake, perhaps without the proper authority to do so. That is called the citizens of Mobile County to come together, pull their money and resources together to seek out a remedy through the courts that costs them money. Yet these appointed boards serve at the pleasure of the various politicians, such as city council members or county commissioners. So, of course, they will be loyal to those who appoint them versus what is in the best interest of you, the citizen. That is just my opinion. There is a better way. I am suggesting a better way. Listen, it's a subtle, but it's a powerful system behind the curtain. Authority is effectively delegated to people with no formal accountability to you, the public. This creates a ripple effect. It creates influence that grows, networks that expand, and control over resources becomes leverage. Over time, this builds empires around elected officials who understand the strategic value of appointments. It's one of the reasons that some incumbents remain in office for long periods of time. They've built power networks, and they are difficult to dismantle. So when we talk about appointments, it's not just about filling a seat. It's about understanding how influence flows, and certainly how power is consolidated, and how these networks can act as a force multiplier in election season, especially in those elections where you really need or won't change. I suppose Birch has built an empire, and I suppose maybe that was smart on his behalf to do it, but it doesn't serve the best interest of you, the voting public. As voters and citizens, it's important to simply recognize these dynamics. Processes exist to ensure accountability, my friends, and fairness, but it affects the distribution of power, the allocation of those resources, and ultimately those who stay in office. Next time you hear about appointments to boards like the Mobile County 911 Board, remember, it's not just a name on a roster. It's a window into how influence in the political world is built, how loyalty networks are expanding, even without formal power, can be leveraged to shape elections and certainly governance. This, my friends, is why you must be registered to vote. You must engage in the political process, even if you loathe it. It matters. Your money is paying for people to sit in office that do not put your best interest first. You may even say, well, Paul, you didn't really prove anything with this podcast. All you did was point out that, the majority of the board members either work directly or direct reports of Birch in some kind of way. But let me say this. While we may not have all the information as to the authority of this board or any other boards, they wield power. And if it is important for these politicians to control that power on these boards, the influence on these boards, then we should recognize that those roles bring prominence, power, and influence. And that is not always on your behalf. Well, my friends, the time is short. That is it for today's episode of Inside Influence. I'm Paul Prine, running for Mobile County Sheriff, reminding you to look beyond the official titles. The real power often lies in the networks built behind the scenes. That doesn't always serve you, the public, in the best way possible. Yes. My friends, again, thank you. Share the podcast, share it in Messenger, share it on Facebook, share it on your social media platforms. Let's get the word out. As your sheriff, I will always put you, the citizen, first. Stay tuned for the next episode. You don't want to miss it. God bless.